Years ago I lost my heart in the city. When the night comes, I want to see the stars. So I try to keep my distance from the highway. In the place I fell in love right from the start. There's no shame here in knowing all neighbors.
Howdy.
More than a mailbox.
Welcome to String Theory. I'm JP Cormier, and we're here for episode 3, and we're pretty excited. This is the third week for this, and we're really enjoying it. String Theory, the live weekly YouTube show where you ask the questions and we give the answers as best as we can on all things stringed. So, yeah, we're super excited to be here. I want to thank our sponsors, G&G Music, Levy Straps, and Boucher Guitars, and also some exciting new news that's going to come out this week, which I'll tell you later during the broadcast. And yeah, and if you like what you see and you're having a good time, you learn something, hit the tip jar down below. If you want to, send us a little dough. If not, the next best thing you can do for us is hit the subscribe button. It's just right down there in the corner. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Give us a thumbs up. Slap that like button, as they all say down on YouTube. And yeah, so we're super stoked. It's been, the last 2 weeks have been really fun. We've given away some serious money and some great opportunities for people to get great instruments from Glenn Gotel down in G&G Music in Antigonish. And as you know, he'll service anything, anywhere. Doesn't matter where you are, he can ship to you. He's the #1 Boucher dealer in the world right now. And so, yeah, he's a great guy. And I'm sure the people that know him know he's a tremendous fella. So I want to quick say, too, that my brother, Dave Gunning, is doing a Facebook live show right after this broadcast. So at 8 p.m., run over to Facebook and catch his show. But don't leave too early, because the giveaway trivia question is going to happen about 10 minutes before the end of the show. So don't leave us too quick. Anyhow, that's it. That's sort of the housekeeping we have to do as far as I can remember. And yeah, so let's go to our first question. What do we got over there, Ginger?
It's one from last week from James McDonald. Acoustic amps. Do you use one? Do you have a few? What do you use on stage?
Well, acoustic amps. Well, I'm personally, a lot of people feel different ways about this, but personally, I can't play without an amplifier on stage. I used to do without for years and years, and no offense to my front of house guys and my monitor guys, but I was always at the mercy of somebody else's mix in my monitors and even the house. And amplifiers, good amplifiers, negate that problem entirely. So my amp of choice for the last 15 years has been a Fishman Loudbox. And recently I started using a new amp that Mesa Boogie just put out. And I don't have the model number right in front of me, but it's a new acoustic amp they just put out in the last 18 months or so, and I picked one up actually on this tour that was canceled due to the pandemic, and I love it. It's a great amp. I gave my Fishman to Bill. Bill actually, his last 3 amplifiers were all Fishman Loudboxes, and I gave him all 3 of them. They were the ones that I had used for a decade, and they were still working like a charm. So having an amplifier on stage does a lot of things. First of all, if you have a post EQ out, which means the line that you're sending to the board or the front of house is sending the EQ that's on the amp, that's awesome, because then the front of house guy doesn't have to do any work. He's getting the signal that you're hearing out of the amplifier, which should be fairly pleasant. And he can adjust it, fairly in a limited fashion in order to get it to sound great through the house. And of course, then on top of that, you don't have to worry about monitors for guitar. The only thing I put through my monitors on stage is my vocal. Everything else is my guitar is going through the amplifier, and there was a time when I even ran my fiddle through the same amp. So yeah, I personally can't do without an amplifier on stage, and a lot of people resist it because it, some guys who play acoustic instruments are don't want to take that final step to de-acoustify themselves. So they don't like the idea of having an amplifier on stage. But I look at it like this. Chet Atkins used one because he played electric, but also Doc Watson had amps on stage all his entire career. Once he was able to plug his guitar in, he played through a Fender Twin. And then Fishman's later on, and on it goes. So yeah, guitar amps, acoustic amps are a great tool. Fishman makes a great one. This Mesa Boogie I'm using is amazing. There's a number of other great amp companies like AER that's out of Germany. And Schertler is another company. All amps that I've tried and used, but my favorite of all of them is still Fishman. Even though I'm using this Mesa Boogie and I love it. It's an incredible amplifier, and I don't see myself going back to Fishman anytime soon, but I eventually will break down and buy another Fishman loud box. So yeah, there you go. That's the amp story. What's next?
This one's from GDS.
GDS.
What's your favorite pickup system and why?
That's a great question, and it's a question I get asked 100 times a year, mostly from sound men, because when I go, don't mean to brag, but because it ain't nothing to do with me, it's the pickup. When I go to a show and plug my guitar in for the first time and a sound man hears my guitar, they're shocked by what it sounds like, because it sounds like the guitar. It has no color. It sounds like I'm playing through a microphone. And the reason that is happening is because I'm using a company called K&K, and they're an American company, and they make it's a contact pickup that I discovered years ago, actually through Groon Guitars in Nashville. I still have it, actually. My buddy Jim Hanlon had it for a long time. Now I have it back, but I have a D28 Clarence White Martin, and it has a through bridge saddle, which means the saddle is extending beyond the limitations of the normal saddle slot. It goes almost the whole length of the top of the bridge. You can't put a piezo under there because you can't. You'd have to measure where it goes. There's no slot that shows that has the sides of the parameters are missing. So I went to Grumman's one day. I was in Nashville, and I was like, how can I pick up this guitar? And the guy said, well, there's this company out of Salt Lake City. It's called, I think they're in Salt Lake. He said they're called K&K. And they sound really good. And I said, well, what are they? He said, well, they're a contact pickup. And they're 3 contacts, little tiny things like about the size of less than a dime, that they super glue to the bridge plate in front of the pegs inside the guitar, and it comes out the back of your end pin jack, right? And I was doubtful. I thought, because the contact pickups usually don't sound very good, so he put the pickup in my Martin, and then the next shock was the pickup cost $75. $75 US, and he put it in for 50. So I walked away with a pick, and the first time I plugged that guitar in, my face almost melted off, and I've been using K&K ever since. They're the best sounding pickups I've ever used. They sound exactly like my guitar. There's no color, there's no feedback whatsoever, because they're not live. They're a passive pickup. And that's what's so amazing about them, because their output is incredibly high. You can plug one of these things. Every one of my guitars in this room has a K&K in it. And you can plug one of these things right into a DI and send it to the board, and the guy has to turn the gain down because it's so hot. And so I just can't make any other recommendation. I've used everything else. Like if I had to go 1, 2, and 3, it would be K&K, and then next would be LR Bags, but it would only be the Anthem Element mix system. And then after that, number 3, the spot is not populated because I don't know of any other pickups that I would actually use, because I won't use Fishman or any brittle style of piezo pickup. They just don't sound good to me. And plus, they have batteries. They have 9-volt batteries that are stored inside your guitar. And a guy like me with ham hocks on the end of my arms can't get my hand inside my sound hole to get, so I literally have to have a pair of barbecue tongs to reach in and grab this battery bag out. K&K has none of that. K&K is the 3 sensors, and that's it. There's no battery, there's no messing around, there's nothing to break down, and every time you plug it in, it sounds like a bazillion dollars. So, and I might mention also that they've only gone up in price about $25. So the pickup itself is only $110, and whatever Long McQuaid charges you to install it, or whatever whatever place you go to do it. And these other systems cost 5 times that. I have spent personally putting an Anthem, like an LR Baggs mix system that has an Anthem microphone and a piezo underneath the saddle, has cost upwards of $600. But I can walk in with my guitar and say, put a K&K in this, and I walk out for about $175. So even money wise, K&K is the best bet. There's just nothing like it, and they don't know me. I've never been paid by them. This is not a paid advertisement. That's what I use, and it's all I use. So I hope you check them out. There, you can find them at any Long McQuaid in Canada, mostly because of me, because I had them bring the pickups in Bedford probably 12 years ago when I discovered them, and they soon became one of the best-selling pickups in the whole store chain. So, yeah, so K&K all the way, and they make dual systems as well, and systems for other instruments. So check them out online. What's the next?
From Mark McCrae.
Mark McCrae. How are you doing, Mark? You doing good tonight? Glad to have you here with us at String Theory.
Do you have a practice or warm-up pattern that you do on banjo or guitar regularly to build or maintain your picking speed and accuracy?
No, I do not. The way, and I'm saying this knowing full well that I shouldn't say it to my people who are potentially students of mine, but I don't ever practice. And I did at one time, but even then, I didn't practice by... I practiced the way I developed my syllabus to teach people. So in other words, when I was a child, I would latch onto a song or a tune, more likely a tune, because I wasn't really singing when I was a kid. So I'd latch onto a specific tune, and I would learn that tune and study all of the difficult techniques that were contained in the tune. And so I would practice that tune until my fingers and my ears bled. And that was my practice regimen. Hours and hours and hours. There was times when I played, and this people can laugh at this, but it's the truth. I played at times when I was a kid where the ends of my fingers split open and blood ran down the back of my hand. My mother would come in the bedroom and see me bleeding and force me to stop playing. So that's how much I practiced when I was a kid. But I didn't practice any particular lick or scale or exercise or any of those things. I picked apart one piece of music until I had it perfected, and then I would play it and play it and play it and play it until I could do it in my sleep. And what I advise people now to do, because no one is going to do that. No one has time. The world is different. Even kids don't have time to do that anymore. I did. I had time. I was able to sequester myself away from the whole world. We didn't have internet. We had like 4 channels on television. Like, I had time. I could get out of the world and go do that. But no one, not even young people now, have the time to put the level of practice in that I did. So what I advise people now is is to take the aspects of the things the way that I practice, like take a certain thing that's inside a tune you want to learn. Let's say you're learning a fiddle tune that has picked cuts in it. Those things, right? So you practice and that builds everything: muscle memory, knowledge of the right hand, knowledge of the left hand, and you take music apart as if it was made of building blocks, and you learn the hardest part of things first. You learn a technique that's in the tune that's difficult for you, and you practice that one phrase that forces you to do that hard thing, and then you add more around it of the tune so that you're playing up to the hard part and you get through it, or you stumble, but then you continue on, and you elongate the tune from either side of that hard phrase or technique. And that's how you should practice. You should never practice by playing through an entire piece and making a million mistakes. That's not practice. As soon as you make a mistake, you need to stop and identify it, and then change and find out how it's really supposed to be and start doing it that way. Then you go back to the beginning and you play through till you hit that spot again. And if you make the same mistake, you stop again. If you don't do that, what you're doing is building up negative muscle memory. You're memorizing mistakes. And that's the best advice I can give any student. And in other words, don't go by my personal practice regimen, because I don't have one. I still play when I'm worried about being able to do something that I know I can do, that I've done a million times in the past. Like I'm backstage and I'm thinking, because I have a strange memory. If I play something before a show, I can't remember it during the show. It's like it's a tape loop, and once it loops and plays, it goes out the end of my head. So, and I play so much by muscle memory that if I start to think about what I'm playing, I can't remember how it's done. That's terrifying. When you're just about to go on stage and you're going, I can't remember how to play the break from Kelly's Mountain. And so I get in the back and I'm trying to play it, and I'm stumbling and stumbling. That's my practice. But when I get in front of the microphone, it comes out all by itself. So it's a weird, I'm not special that way. It's just that I've played so long and utilized muscle memory for so long that I can't even think about playing. It messes me up. I just have to let it happen. And the only time I institute any kind of regimen or practice schedule is if I'm learning something new. I'll sit here or somewhere and, study something I want to learn. And oftentimes I even now use software, as I did with a kid. As a kid, I used a tape player that slowed down. I use software to slow things down, and where I can find out where everything is, and I'll sit there and play it until I get tired of it, and then I'll move on to something else. So my practice regimen is actually learning. It's not practicing things I already know, because when I do that, I often can't remember what I know. So there you go. There's the question, and there's you'll never get better advice on how to practice than that. That's incredibly important, I think. What's next?
From Chad Roselle.
Chad, how you doing, brother?
I was wondering if there's a best method to string an acoustic guitar, or a trick to stringing a slotted headstock, like the one beside you.
Well, I'll tell you one thing first off, right off the bat. I don't know where you are on the timeline of playing, but there's a whole video on that contained in Master Music Method, which is my online school. You can sign up for that thing for $15 US dollars per month, and you have unlimited access to all the videos that are there, and we're putting more up. There's one being filmed tomorrow, as a matter of fact, and because there's lots of people going in there now. It seems to have picked up incredibly fast, just I guess because of the pandemic. But there's people going in like crazy, so we're starting to really pound a lot of new content on there. Every week there's going to be something new. But there's an entire video on there almost an hour long on maintenance and tech of your guitar. So I can tell you some basic things, right? But if you join Triple M Master Music Method, there's all like really nice camera angles and close-ups, and it's fully described. But I can tell you right off the bat, first thing is if you're stringing a standard headstock that has the spindle sticking out of the front of the headstock, I know that people tend to want to use what they call a Z-lock or some kind of binding knot that causes a string to grab itself as it goes around the spindle when you tighten it up. I am of the belief, because I've done it for 46 years, that the less you do to that string end, the less breakage you'll have, unless there's a problem with the nut or the saddle, that there's a sharp edge somewhere and it may break at the saddle, which is the most common place to break. But if you do too much, if you subject the string end to too much trauma, like too much bending and angles and gripping, and it causes the string to degrade, in my opinion, because I have never used those techniques and my strings never slip and they never break. I have never broken a string on stage. I think I broke the first string I ever broke in my life on stage just in the last couple of years, and it was a fluke. I can't remember why it happened. I think it was probably because I got lazy and didn't change my strings after 6 shows. But, so that's the first thing. When you string a straight spindle coming out of the front of the headstock, a non-slotted headstock, you just put the string through, right? And you start, and you pull it up, so you measure about maybe 7-8 inches off the top of the guitar. That's how much slack you want. And you just leave it straight, and you start turning it. And as it comes around, you make sure that the string end goes underneath, and then that keeps it from slipping up over the spindle. And you just keep pulling it tight, and it'll tune, and it will not stretch. It will. I mean, every string stretches, but after you've yanked on it and tuned it and yanked on it a few times, it is locked. So a slotted headstock is incredibly different. Slotted headstocks are very difficult to string because they don't have the same kind of grip as a spindle. So the way to get around it is, and Robin Boucher taught me this, I never knew this. So what you want to do is the same process. You put the string through, you pull up your slack about 7 or 8 inches, and as you tighten this, you don't do anything up here. Don't tie knots, don't Z-lock, don't do any of that stuff. You just start turning it. And when the well, we have doggos in the room. And when the string end comes around, you make sure that the string is on one side of it. And when it comes around the second time, you put the string and the rest of the winds on the other side. So in other words, you want the string end to have string on either side of it. And that will keep it from slipping. It's amazing how it works, but it does work even on unwound strings. So the first time through, I hold the string that way, so the string end comes up around with the string itself on the right side, and then when it passes around, I pull it back so it comes on the left side, so that the string end is clamped by the string itself on either side of it coming out of the hole. And then you don't want to cut these ends that short because there is slippage on this type of headstock, but not a lot. If you just make sure when you string the guitar that you pull the strings hard to the point where I might break this, but you can literally, like I can literally do this. Just grab it and yank it. And this guitar, that barely pulled that out of tune. That's how well this is locked. But you can really just grab them and just give them a good pull. And it didn't even come out of tune. So that's how well that system locks. So string on either side of the string end coming out of the hole in the spindle. If you do that, you'll never have a problem. You won't break strings up there, and you'll have very little slippage. So good question. And if you want some, like I said, if you want a real detailed, because I go in great detail about, you know, how to do it, how to make sure bridge pins are put in correctly, how to know when you're locked against the bridge plate inside, like all those things about stringing, maintenance, neck adjustment, everything. All those things are in mastermusicmethod.com. So if you want to go, and plus there's lessons there on 4 different instruments. So by all means, go check it out. There's lots of people signing up for it. So anyhow, great question. I love that. Who's next?
Matt.
Matt, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
He's a self-professed pick nerd.
Pick nerd.
Mm-hmm. And he's wondering what picks you prefer, what gauge. He has like some picks, so all pick talk is most welcome.
Well, I am too a pick nerd. I love picks. Picks are the only thing that can severely influence the sound of your playing. Besides possibly capos. Capos, if you have a bad capo, that can hurt your sound of your playing. But picks, they're like people. I know that people don't realize how incredibly important your pick is. So, I have a vast number of favorite picks, and almost all of them are very heavy. They're 1.5 millimeters at least. And the only time I use anything lighter than that is to play rhythm on a recording. So it can make the guitar sound brighter because they're floppier. And so my main pick of choice, of course, and this is, again, a company I have no affiliation with whatsoever, I just love their picks, is the Blue Chip. Now, if you haven't heard of these, these picks cost $50. $50. That's how big a pick nerd I am. The reason they cost so much is because they're made out of a material that, in my opinion, so closely resembles biological tortoise shell, which is what flat picks were made of way back before they made it illegal to harvest turtles for this purpose, and they should have, right? It's so close to the sound and tone of actual tortoise that it's worth every single dime. And it's also made out of a material that is virtually indestructible. You can play this pick for years, and it has 3 corners, and so if you wear one, you just use the other one. And the tone, and this, for people who know about Blue Chip, I'm using a T8050. So the tone of this pick is beautiful and warm with a crisp high end, and the speed of it is flabbergasting. Like if you play with a standard plectrum or nylon pick that you buy in a music store, and you move to something like this or something like Dunlop True Tones, or like any high-end pick that you're paying, $10 for 3 of them, the level of tone and playability is amazing. You're playing, if you're learning and you switch to a really premium flat pick, you won't believe the improvement it makes in your playing. It's because it's all about friction. It's all about friction, smoothness, and the gripability of something. You're holding on to something relatively small when you're dealing with a teardrop shaped pick, which all picks are, except for these. These are big triangles, right? So these type of picks, I really love these. I can use regular, teardrop kind of picks, but I prefer these because they're bigger. They have 3 identical tips, and just the tone is incredible. And I go into that a lot in my lessons, because part of the secret of how I attain any speed that I do is because I'm not using a pick that bends. If you have a pick, I'll give you this short lesson that's actually in Master Music Method, which is I love this. I love this anecdote. So, if you think of my finger as a string, and this pick hits the string, and the pick bends as it hits, there's a certain amount of kinetic energy that it's taking up. It's bending, hitting the string, and then it literally rebounds and bends the other way and comes back. That takes time. It's nanoseconds, but it takes time, and it slows you down because the pick is reacting in an unwanted reaction. The connection between you and the string should be instant, and the only way to have that happen is if the pick doesn't bend. So when you hit the string, the reaction occurs in your hand, not in the pick. So when you hit the string, it's right where you left it. And when you come back, it's the same way. It doesn't bend, it doesn't move, it doesn't shift. These minute nerve firings that's making your hand move back and forth aren't having to deal with the fact that this pick end is flopping back and forth like quite a lot. If you're using a light pick, like a medium, like a 1 mil or a 73 mil nylon pick, those things flop around like toilet paper. It slows you down. And even if you turn it over, like I tell people to do all the time, turn your pick over so you're playing with the edges. It makes it faster even still. You can't really do that with a soft pick because it still bends. It bends almost the same amount. So a high-end premium three-corner pick is, you can't beat it. And there's lots of them. Blue Chip's not the only one. Like I said, I've tried Prime Tone. I've got some Tortex Flexes I just got that I love. Clayton makes a great three-corner pick, but nothing under 1.5 millimeters. That's the ticket. If you go below that, you're gonna have some movement. The closer you get to 1 millimeter, the more movement you're gonna have in this pick, and it's unwanted. So, and for thumb picking, I think I mentioned this earlier, maybe in another, maybe the first one. I love thumb picks. I use Golden Gate, Dunlop, and National, all large, heavy picks. And my other weapon of choice are these Fred Kelly slick picks because Chet used these. And I use heavy gauge in these too, and they have a lot of play in them because you want play because it becomes percussion. When you're doing the Chet style, you want that tick, 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 tick. This gives it to you. And it's also more easily doubles as a flat pick if you grab it and start playing like that. This is easier to do that with, although I do it with every thumb pick I use, but these things I love. Now there's also these hybrid picks now that are actually heavy gauge picks with a thumb attachment fastened to them. So you wear them like a thumb pick, but when you grab it, it's like a flat pick. And you let go of it and it's still stuck to your thumb. I can't use those for some strange reason. I can't play rhythm with them. And it must be because of the way I tilt my pick. The thumb attachment doesn't allow me to manipulate the pick in my hand the way I would normally. So I love the idea. Bill uses them all the time. Bill Elliott uses a Herco version of that pick, it's a big triangular pick with a thumb attachment, and that's all he plays with. But because of that, he has instant thumb picking whenever he wants it, and then flat picking wherever he wants it, which is so cool. But I just never got around. I've never been able to get whatever's going on with the muscle memory in my hand. It doesn't work with those, and I've tried them, and I was highly disappointed they didn't work because it's such a cool system. But yeah, so there's your pick nerd for you. So who's next?
Mark McCrae.
Mark McCrae.
Again. More questions. Have you ever thought of doing any live looping and switching up instruments as you build them?
I've watched people do looping, and I absolutely love it. But I want to do it myself. I just haven't got the nerve up to do it yet. It's just that simple, and it's a technology, you know, that's foreign to me. I suppose if I sat in the studio here and practiced it, and put a show together where I could utilize it, I could do it. I'm pretty sure I could do it because it's just overdubbing, but you're overdubbing live in front of an audience, which is really weird. So, yeah, I the answer is yes. I would love to be able to do that. I just haven't done it yet, and there's no telling what might happen. I may yet end up doing it because it's to me. I've seen some guys do incredible things with looping stations, and I'm a big fan of it. So, absolutely, if you haven't tried it, or somebody out there that's watching that's wondering about it, I would get into it. Even if you're just beginning, get into it early so you understand it, because I understand how it works, and it's just it's technology that I'd have to learn, obviously, to get, because I wouldn't want to do it half-assed. I'd want to be really good at it before, like Tim Eady's really good at it. And another guy I used to love watching him was Oliver Schroer, who's passed on, God bless his heart. And he could create entire bands with just his fiddle, with a looping station, and play, and it was just unbelievable. And yeah, so it's definitely a field that I would want to explore, and I probably will at some point in time over the next while, I would think. How are we doing over there now?
Oh, good. We got GDS again.
There's a lot of repeaters on here tonight.
Yeah. How did you come up with the design for your signature model?
My signature model was designed after Yogi. This is Yogi. Yogi was the third guitar I bought from Robin, and Yogi is a triple-aught guitar. Such a nice guitar. I just love looking at this thing. It's a 12 fret. The neck joins the body at the 12th fret instead of the 14th, which is a problem for me. But his small body guitars are so incredible that they sound like dreadnoughts. Except they're more pleasant than a dreadnought because they don't have all the mud and bottom and gross. They're just clean, fat bottom end, penetrative mids and trebles, and the volume of the guitar and the playability of the guitar is identical everywhere on the neck. So, and this one is made out of rosewood, right? So, when we started to talk about what my signature model would be, this was the Boucher guitar that I was playing the most. I couldn't get it out of my hands. I just couldn't get it out of my hands. I was like, I have to have, if you're building me a guitar that I put my name on forever, it has to be the first cousin to Yogi. So that's how it happened. They designed a triple-aught with a very specialized type of cutaway that exposes 16 frets, and the same neck, Adirondack, torrefied top, special pick guard, a different pick guard designed just for this body size, and bound in koa instead of maple, and yeah, but that's how it happened. This is the predecessor, the direct predecessor to the J.P. Cormier signature model Boucher, because I love this guitar so much. I play this guitar all the time, and like I say, if you've watched this channel, you know I have 8 of them, and they all get equally played, but for some reason I come back to this guitar all the time, almost as much as I do the signature model itself. And yeah, I love Yogi. God, it's just such a sound. piano. It's just amazing. And all his small body guitars sound like that. I don't know how he does it. I've never asked him. I'm afraid he might have to kill me if he told me. So yeah, it is what it is. That's how the signature model came to be, and that's the actual guitar it was based on. Who's next, Ginger?
Michael Easter.
Michael Easter again. How you doing? Back again.
Do you have a favorite brand of nylon string guitar?
Of nylon string guitar?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't. I don't have enough knowledge about nylon string guitars to have a favorite. I have two good nylon string guitars. One is a Ramirez that I will never part with. It's quite old now. I've had it for almost 20 years, and it was built by Ramirez before he died, just before he died, apparently. And it was special ordered into the 12th fret in Toronto, and the guy didn't want it because when he got it, it was a cutaway with an onboard Fishman pickup system in it, which was quite rare in those days. And he saw it and saw the electronics and all this, and he panicked and didn't want it. But it was very expensive. It was a $7,000 guitar, and I think I won't say what I gave for it, but I gave very little for it. I basically paid the cost of it, which was amazing. And sorry, allergies. I'm not dying or anything. And my current guitar, the one that I'm playing all the time now, the Ramirez is retired. It's signed by Gordon Lightfoot, and it's in a case, and I don't use it because I don't want anything to happen to that guitar. So I have another gut string that I just picked up on this tour, and to be quite honest with you, I don't know who makes it. I can't remember. But I know it's a great guitar. It's a really nice gut string. But right now, sitting here, I can't recall who builds it. But they are a very high-end company. And I didn't buy the most expensive one, but I just bought one that was really good. It sounded good and played good, and I loved it, and that was it. So I bought it. And I've used it. It's been in a couple of the Life and Music videos that happen on Mondays on the Life and Music series here on YouTube. It was on this week, and I think it may have been used prior to that in one of the earlier episodes. So if you watch the Life and Music videos, you'll see the guitar, and you'll probably know the maker as soon as you see the headstock. It has these 3 little pearl keystones on the headstock. Very unique looking guitar, but yeah. But that's as much as I use gut strings, I wish I used them more because Chet and Jerry used them so much. Chet Atkins and Jerry Reed played them exclusively almost, except when he was playing electric. He never played acoustic that I know of, really. And so the gut string has a special place in my heart just because of that. And I love the sound of it. Yeah. But that's about all I know. I am not a gut string expert by any means, for sure. I use them, but that's about where it ends. What's next, Ginger? Who else is that? Who else we got tonight?
Just a quick one from Anita Baker.
Anita.
Have you ever used picks from Tree Picks? They're a Canadian company.
I have used Tree Picks, and they're lovely picks, but I can't use them because I play so hard that they would just turn into sawdust after about 3-4 songs. So that they're while they're an amazing company, and they might work for some people who might only maybe use them for rhythm or I don't know. But me personally, they would be splinters in a matter of seconds, because I've tried them and I love the sound of them. They sound great, but I am way too heavy-handed to use something that's made out of wood. It's unfortunate, but I totally endorse them though. They're good company. I've met the guys who actually make them at festivals over the last couple of years. So yeah, they're a lovely, good Canadian company. But unfortunately, there's no tree out here that can withstand the torture I put a pick through. So yeah. But anyhow, yes, they're a dandy thing. They have personalized picks too. Like I see them advertised a lot on Facebook and stuff. It's pretty cool. I like that. Who's next up?
Straight View 74.
What?
Straight View 74.
Straight View 74.
Mm-hmm. He just says Gilmore or Page.
Oh, Page. If we're talking about capos, I assume that's what we're talking about. Page. I just actually ordered a Page for my 12-string. Now, I'm assuming that's what you mean. So, the Page, I don't use Page live, and the reason is that most of my guitars, you can't slide them up over the nut where they're supposed to go when you're not using them. They will go, but there's something weird about having that thing there, and when you go back to play there, your hand touches it or bumps into it, and you're worried that, because you don't want to tighten it so much it stretches the strings behind the nut. So you're worried if you touch it, you might knock it loose and it'll come up over the nut and start rattling, just laying there while you're trying to play. So I don't use them as live, but in the studio, I use everything. I'm a huge Kaiser fan, and Shub, of course, and G7 is a company that endorses me now. They make a Page style capo that I like better than Page. It's because it's a little more, puts a little more even pressure on the strings than the Page. But again, it depends on the guitar and the neck and. So you've got to kind of you got to make your own decisions about that and figure out what capo sounds the best on your instrument with the type of strings that you're using and the type of music you're playing. If you're playing fingerstyle, it could be a different capo. If you're playing bluegrass, it's a different capo. If you're a singer-songwriter and just need to get the nut moved up where you need it, it could be a Kaiser, just something quick and easy. But it's all in the eyes of the beholder and the player. That's the main thing to remember about all of that stuff. But if I had to choose between, it would be a Page. If I had to use one capo, it would probably be the Page or a Page style capo, because I do like them. They're pretty cool. What's next?
So the original question asker has clarified his question, and he actually meant Dave Gilmore or Jimmy Page.
Oh.
But they did love your answer.
Well, good. I don't know. That's a question I can't answer. I don't like giving those types of opinions because I think every single musician, especially guys like that, their contribution to what we do is ridiculous. When you look at their body of work, it's kind of hard to say anything about that, and I wouldn't, because there's a lot of people that will like each of those players, and the reasons that they like them are all valid. So I don't even gauge players like that. I don't. I have no interest in rating players. I don't even like to talk to people who I shouldn't say that. I love to talk to them, but I don't like to get involved with people who ask me to critique their work or their songwriting or I don't believe in it. I think what makes validity in music is the heart of the person who's playing it. If you believe that you're doing something valuable and great, then that's what it is. And if you see it that way, and maybe some people don't, it just means they just don't see it. They don't see it the same as you, but many other people might. So, because music is completely subjective. So, I just think that when you're talking about guys like that, man, oh man, like there's just, if I had to choose one of them, there'd be no way for me to say why. You know what I mean? So I think we should all just take something from all players, all musicians. If you love one player over another, don't discount the other so quickly. because there might be something inside what they do that can add to your catalog and your encyclopedia in here as a player yourself. So that's how I feel about that. So I probably won't be doing any more comparison questions because I don't like to do that.
I think it's time for the trivia.
Oh yeah, there we go. So here we're going to do our giveaway now. Now the last couple of weeks we were trying to find the best way to do this, and frankly, you guys are so sharp that the way we were doing it wasn't working. It was too convoluted and stupid. So what we're going to do this week is we're going to let this answer be done here on this video. The first person that types, that chats in this answer on this video here right now live will win from G&G Music in Antigonish a set of strings, a free guitar humidifier, dehumidifier, and here's the exciting thing. We've recently got word that Recording King, which is a very, very interesting company out of San Francisco, who have reignited an old brand. Recording King came from way back in the early 30s and 40s in the United States. You know, guitars that were sold by Sears and Roebuck and other department stores, and the original Recording King guitars are sought after by collectors. Recording King is back. And they've been back for a while, and they're building really nice guitars, and they're exactly what I like to promote to people for the budget conscious player who needs a great guitar, can't spend $6,000, wants to get something around $1,000. Well, Recording King is it, and they're coming to G&G Music very, very shortly. And not only that, I'm going to do a review of the one that I'm going to get. I'm getting one of their D18, their D28 style guitars with a true age 30 year Adirondack top on it, solid rosewood back and sides. It's a D28 basically. So I'm going to compare that with a Martin 28 in an upcoming video. So we're really excited about that. I love being able to offer somebody an alternative. If you are looking at a Boucher, you want one, they're expensive, you can't afford it right now, I'd like to be able to tell you what to buy while you save your pennies and get your money together and get a Boucher someday. You will get a Boucher, and then you probably won't want to get rid of this guitar, right? So I like to steer people in the right direction. So Recording King's coming on board, and so part of the prize is a $50 certificate off of any Recording King guitar from G&G Music. So you get a free set of strings, a humidifier, dehumidifier pack, whatever. There's going to be several brands that Glenn carries. I'm not sure which one he's going to give you, but they're all good. And a $50 coupon for the purchase off of any Recording King guitar. And remember, these guitars start around $1,000. So it is a nice little discount to have, and you're going to enjoy them. And if you go in there and play them, you're going to love them. They're really cool for the money, and they're very old feeling and old sounding. And that's what I like about them. So anyhow, here's the question. First person with the answer in the little chatty window there is going to win that little prize. And we're going to call out the winner as soon as we see it. And then you're going to send me an email. And I'll get that email off to Glenn, and you'll be all validated and get your prize. So here's the question. As you all probably know, if you don't, I'm telling you right now, that Doc Watson was my biggest hero. He was the complete catalyst for me becoming a flat picker, moving out of the thumb picking world of Chet Atkins, moving into flat picking. Doc Watson was the man. The question this week here on String Theory is, what was the name of the man, and I only need a last name, you can give me a first one if you want, would be cool. What was the name of the man who built Doc Watson's guitars? The first person to answer that question correctly on our feed here on YouTube right now on this video, winner?
Clem DeCoste.
Was it?
His name is Clem DeCoste.
Clem DeCoste?
Came in with Gallagher.
Clem DeCoste, you are the winner. Clem DeCoste. Okay, so Clem, I'm going to write your name down here. So what you're going to do, Clem, is you're going to send an email to jpcormier38@gmail.com. Email me right away, jpcormier38@gmail.com. You'll see it's in the description below the video here because it's one of the ways to hit the tip jar. Send me an email to that email address and I will validate your prize and get you sent off to Glenn. He'll know about you. He'll contact you and you can pick it up whenever we get these guitars in. I think they're going to be coming in very shortly. So Clem DeCoste is the winner. The man who built Doc Watson's guitars for the better part of 40 years almost was a man named Don Gallagher. And as a matter of fact, the first Gallagher that I think that Doc had, he called it Donald. And I'm also pretty proud to say that I'm having a Gallagher built for me. That's the same model that Doc played. They've restarted building these guitars in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and I'm very, very excited about it. They've opened up all the old recipe books and are starting to build these guitars again, and I'm super stoked because I've never owned one and I've always wanted to own one because Doc means so much to me, and to have a Gallagher would just be, I can't even believe I've actually seen it. I've seen it on the bench partially finished. So I will actually have one here at some point in time over the next year or so, the next probably 6 months. And so there you go, Clem. You win the prize. Free set of strings, free humidifier, $50 coupon off of any Recording King guitar at G&G Music. And I also want to send a shout out to Fantasy Music in Halifax and O'Brien's, I believe, is the latest shop that I've heard about that's carrying Boucher and Recording King for sure. And we got time for one more question. We're just about at the end of our hour. I want to thank you for being here. This is so cool. I love this. This is my favorite thing that we're doing right now. And I want to just thank everybody for supporting us. We're living because you guys are supporting us. So if you want to hit the tip jar, all the directions are down below. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Please hit it. It helps us build our profile with YouTube. And what else is there? Is there anything else we need to remember to talk about? Oh, Dave. Dave's starting in about 3 minutes. So one quick question. Let's go.
Okay, this is Blair Tinker.
Hey, Blair. How you doing, buddy?
Do you know any good exercises to loosen up an old stiff set of hands?
Believe it or not, I would just practice major scales in every key. Just a little bit every day. And then just learn a simple fiddle tune or something that not too complicated. Something that's relatively easy to play so you're not struggling to actually play it as well as dealing with your stiffness. But just play major scales in every key. Play one in C, G, D, A, and E. And just work them through and keep your picking nice and steady. You don't have to do it fast. Just work stuff that's easy to do in your head, but requires your hands to stretch out a bit, because that's what causes stiffness, is just lack of use. Yeah, I get stiff from time to time if I don't play enough, so that's the key. You got to play and use your whole hand, and it'll keep you limber. And I wouldn't worry about it. Just keep on playing. That's the main thing. The more you play, the better you'll feel. The more you'll want to play. So I want to thank you for being here on String Theory with us here at Ginger's Barn, and we have a fantastic time doing this. And I want to congratulate our winner, Clem. Probably, is that your real name? That's a good name, Clem. I love that. But anyhow, we appreciate you. And that was a quick answer, too. Holy God, that was fast. So we'll see you next week on String Theory, 7 p.m. Atlantic time, here on YouTube. And just remember one thing only. Music's only as hard as you make it. We'll see you next week.
When the night comes wanna see the stars.